So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's session, Maximising the Value of NEC Contracts through Effective Contract Management Systems. Before we begin, just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. You'll notice that everyone's cameras are turned off and microphones have been muted. They'll remain off for the duration of the session. We're just having a look to see if we can unmute people for the Q&A session at the end, but we'll let you know what happens with that. If you do have any questions, we've disabled the chat functionality within Teams, but there is a Q&A functionality that we've enabled. So if you've got any questions, I encourage you to ask questions as we go. Drop them in that Q&A button at the top next to in between chat and people, and we'll pick them up in the Q&A segment towards the end of the session. So we have an exciting lineup of speakers today. So I'm joined by, just go to the next slide. I'm joined by Ross and Phyllis of Mott MacDonald. So Ross will be providing an overview of the NEC Suite of Contracts, the principles and the objectives behind them, how NEC differs from some of the more traditional forms of contract in Singapore, and the benefits and challenges of implementation. Phyllis will then share a case study from Hong Kong demonstrating how digital platforms have been used to support NEC Contract Administration in practice. We're also joined by Matthew Luxton of Mott MacDonald Bentley, who will be sharing real-world insights from administering contracts on the Yorkshire Water framework in the UK, sharing how contract being supported contract delivery in practice. And I'll be covering some of the challenges of traditional contract management and the benefits and wider value of digital adoption, and how digital tools like Contract Bee can improve compliance, visibility, performance of NEC projects. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Ross, who's going to kick us off.
Thank you very much, Brad. All right, thank you so much for those joining us on Teams. I appreciate you dialing in. My name is Ross Verhey, and as you can see there, I'm a technical director here in Singapore for Mott MacDonald. And just reintroducing my colleague dialing in from Hong Kong, Phyllis, who's our project strategy and delivery leader there, and one of our main key experts in NEC and collaborative contracting here in Asia. So if you allow me 20 minutes or so, I'd like to take you through the agenda. I'll do a little bit about who we are in Mott MacDonald, and then the crux of my part of the presentation is around an overview of the NEC contract suites, the principles and objectives behind NEC and how NEC differs from traditional forms of contract, the benefits and challenges of NEC adoption, and then Phyllis will come and give us a case study on the use of digital platforms in Hong Kong. Okay, so who are we? So Mott MacDonald is a global engineering, management and development company. Our purpose is to improve society by considering social outcomes in everything we do, relentlessly focusing on excellence and digital innovation, transforming our clients' businesses, our communities, and our employee opportunities. We are, as I said, a global engineering, development and management consultancy, and we're actually one of the largest wholly employee-owned firms of our kind. We plan, design, deliver and maintain the infrastructure that is integral to the people's lives and the communities that we live in. I've put pictures of our team there, and I'll just hold that there for a second. Feel free to reach out to any of us, link with us in LinkedIn, and we'd be more than happy to talk to you further about these exciting topics that we're running through today. So Mott MacDonald has a really strong presence in Asia. We've been here for over 100 years, and in Singapore in particular for over 50. We celebrated our 50th anniversary last year, I think it was. So we've got a very, very strong presence here in Asia, and in particular from a collaborative contracting and NEC piece, it's Phyllis and Heyman there in Hong Kong, who have a very, very track-driven record around managing NEC and integrating collaborative contracting into large infrastructure projects. But we're here today to talk about NEC. So I'll call this the beginner's guide to NEC, and I hope you'll allow me to do that. If there's things that you already know that I'm going to talk about, then that's fantastic. It means you're on your way to being an expert, and that's really what we're looking for here in Singapore in particular, is about building the industry and taking learnings from global experience of companies such as Mott MacDonald, and bringing it here to Singapore and working with BCA on the collaborative contracting journey that we're on here. So the NEC family has about 20 contracts in it. You can see that there are a number of like main contracts that are most prominent, and then underneath those forms of subcontract and then short contracts as well. The main ones, which I'll talk through in the next slide, are the likes of the engineering and construction contract, the ECC, which a number of you will likely have heard of. There's term service contracts, professional service contracts, and then right down the bottom, there's a few more bespoke ones, which is around a framework contract, an alliance contract, and a dispute resolution contract as well. So NEC has been working on this for a very, very long time. The N stands for new. It's not so new anymore, but they do continue to update the contracts themselves. And we also have a very specific Hong Kong edition actually as well, which is tailored for the local market there. So going back to the four main ones that I spoke about, the ECC is typically the contractor-driven agreement that's used across the world, and it's for engineering construction work, including some level of design responsibilities depending on what's inside the contract. People like myself and Phyllis and others, we become ECC accredited project managers, and that allows us to administer an NEC style contract as the project manager, which is a defined term. The other main one really is around term service contract, and that's for a supplier for a defined period of time to manage a particular service, and that could be lots of different types of services, but it is one of the main ones that you'll see in the construction industry. The professional services contract is more for us, for consultants, and it's the one that we would like to be procured under when we get to a NEC style engagement. And then as far as a full suite goes, the design, build and operate contract is a good one. It takes it all the way from design through construction and then over to the operator as well, which is pretty impressive. But going back to the ECC, which is the main one that you'll see more predominantly now in Singapore, and certainly used a lot in Hong Kong and across the world. There are a number of options for the ECC depending on the type of pricing document that you'd like to use. Typically, that's either an activity schedule, a bill of quantities, or more of a cost reimbursable type basis. So for the purposes today, given the time, I thought I'd just focus on what I'm going to say is the four main ones, and that is the price contract with an activity schedule or a bill of quantities, and then the target cost contract as well. So what's the difference? I guess the main difference really is A and B are the lump sum style contracts. Typically relatively close to your traditional type of contracts that you're used to. If you're in Singapore, that's your PSS COC or your rater style of contract. Option A is very much focused on the activity schedule. So it's very program focused. That's a type of contract that would be milestone based, and it would have payment milestones attached to that. Your bill of quantity style contract is more like your traditional form where there's a bill of quantities that gets filled out at tender time, and then the prices are determined by that bill of quantities. There's other nuances attached to that, but that's probably the two main differences between the fixed price lump sum style contracts. But then we've got the target cost contracts, and these are the ones to me that really shine when it comes to NEC and collaborative contracting. They bring a flavour of what we call pain or gain share, and I'll go into that in a second. But really, it's about the share of risk and the risk allocation between parties, in particular the client and the contractor. The differences between the two, C and D, are very similar to what we just described. One is still a lump sum style of contract, but it's a target cost estimate, and it has an activity schedule, so it's still based on milestones. Equally, the bill of quantities style contract in option D, as I described, it has a bill of quantities, and you measure against that. For the prices. The main difference, I guess, is around how the defined cost payments are determined and how a compensation event is valued as well, depending on which option you're using. Okay, so key considerations on the target cost contract, because I feel like that is the most interesting for today to work through in the short time that we have, is around why would we use a target cost contract? Well, it's a cost-based contract with payments to the contractor on a cost reimbursable basis, subject to the pain and gain share mechanism. So what that means is we're basically saying that even though there may be a cap, a lump sum, a target cost estimate, whatever you want to call it, it's based on a cost reimbursable premise. There's no guarantee of gain share. There's no guarantee of pain share. The sharing of risk occurs throughout the contract, and you manage that through the NEC that you're working with. The benefit of this is obviously the sharing of the risk, the being able to put the project first, and for both parties, the pain share, if it occurs, is not the end of the world because you're sharing it. Any cost overrun or underspend, the agreed target is split between the contractor, client in the pre-agreed proportions, and that's really the premise around the pain and the gain share. The prices in the pricing document are for target cost only, not for the payment purposes. So you still have to employ an open book style mechanism and a cost reimbursable basis. You're not necessarily just following the payment milestones and the way that the prices is built up in the tender. It's still very open book. So the benefit of this is it motivates the parties to work more efficiently and enhances project buildability and cost effectiveness, basically best for project outcomes. You're all working towards the gain share, essentially, because if this project is successful, then everybody wins. You're also working to mitigate the pain share. So no matter what your personal priority is, you're working towards the project having the best outcome that it can, and it's all about risk management. The other one is, it's a relatively complex project to manage, and if you can work through a target cost style NEC, you become a much better project manager and a contract manager associated with that. So, the pilot programs that we're going to see under the options C and D, they're going to be really good for the industry, and it will enable us to build a strong base for collaborative contracting in both the contractor and in the client. So what are the general principles and objectives around NEC, and how does that differ to the traditional forms of contract that we have? Well, it's all about collaborative contracting. You've heard that term many, many times, I'm sure. It's one of the key focuses for BCA here in Singapore in particular. But what does NEC do to I guess, enforce that rule of collaborative contracting? Well, from the very first clause inside of the NEC contract, it's about acting in a spirit of mutual trust and cooperation. It's written into the contract. It says shall, so you must do that. And the other part of that clause is that you shall act as stated in the contract. So you have to follow the contract. So the brilliance of the NEC is that even though on the face of it, it looks rather complex, it looks like a lot of paperwork, it looks like a lot of contract admin, it's set out really well, and it enables you to follow the contract and get from start to finish managing the risk, managing the compensation events, and managing the project outcomes in a very effective way. But you have to follow the contract. So communications within timelines is really important. Communication there has an S because it's talking about the paperwork, essentially, the notifications, the notices. There's time bars all the way through this contract. They're there for a reason. Of course, there's ways to not follow the contract if you really wanted to. We do highly just don't recommend that because it takes away the benefit of the contract itself. If you follow the contract, if you follow the timelines, the best thing is getting to the end of a contract and doing your final count within a couple of days, not within a couple of years, because everything's been resolved throughout. The accepted program is really important. It's the heart of an NEC contract. I feel using the program as a tool for contract management is really important, and being able to accept that is really important. So it's not something you put in the tender and then take it out on day one, and then put it back in the shelf on day two, and don't come back until you want to submit an EOT or a compensation event. It's actively managed by both parties. When things do arise, the early warning mechanism is really good within NEC. It sets out the process for raising issues, raising risks, and puts a process in place so the parties are able to sit down, communicate, work together, and try and get this project moving forward. It also sets out the first part of the premise of compensation events. Being able to actively assess a variation or a compensation event is really important. That all starts from the early warning. So something that's not even happened yet, that's where this process starts. And it's shaped around mitigating these things, hopefully, before it even gets to a compensation event style outcome. Really recommend the fact that if the early warning process is done well, it will help to reduce costs and reduce overruns on time and be able to do these projects more efficiently. So it's very much about what's written there in green, which is sort it now, get it done, have the conversation, follow the timelines, and then you won't be arguing with each other 7 years after the project's finished. All of these things get sorted out in real time. So I've talked about the benefits, perhaps some challenges, because this is very new. It's very new to Singapore, and it's very new to the industry. Typically, the biggest challenge at the moment is around the change of mindset and the change of culture. I didn't quite touch on it actually, but the difference between a PSS COC and an NEC target cost style contract is pretty huge. And being able to change an industry's mindset around how we've always done it to a collaborative project first mindset is going to be the biggest challenge. It takes people, and it takes projects, and it takes clients, and it takes contractors. It takes us to really drive that forward and change the culture of how we deliver infrastructure projects, particularly here in Singapore. So people and training, this is going to take a lot of training and upskilling for the industry. It's not going to happen overnight. I think Heyman and Phyllis can describe it took 15 odd years to really get humming in Hong Kong. But there are plenty of facilities out there that can support in this, and being able to take expertise from across the globe, bring that into Singapore, like we've done at Mott MacDonald, and really drive the upskilling of the industry around us is super important, and that's how this is going to move forward. And then systems. I think one of the things people are really scared about is the perceived level of admin that's coming with an NEC style contract. So we've got our friends here at the Digital Beehive, and we'll be talking about Contract B, which is one of the systems that can be procured. And these systems now are brilliant in minimizing the person hours that it takes to do these things and maximizing what's supposed to happen, which is communications between the parties for a best of project outcome. Okay, so I'm happy to take questions at the end of this session. So I'm sorry I breezed through that really quickly, but I'd like to hand over to my colleague in Hong Kong, in Phyllis, who's going to talk about a case study for contract admin in Hong Kong. So thank you, Phyllis.
So thanks, Ross. So because of the limited time today, so I will just briefly highlight the use of digital platforms in some of our NEC projects in Hong Kong over the preceding journey over the past years or so. So actually, what we want to share today is more on how actually a good digital platform to facilitate NEC contract administration would look like. So just to set the scene first, actually since April 2023, there is a digital work supervision system in Hong Kong, which is mandatorily used for government capital works projects with pre-tender estimate over $30 million. So basically for those projects, it is a mandatory requirement to use the digital work supervision system, which actually houses some of the NEC elements already. For instance, like the early warnings or compensation events, etc. And for consultancies, we have similar mandatory requirements since earlier this year. And for government consultancies, over 15 million Hong Kong dollars. So there are some mandatory basic requirements that we need to follow in terms of like administering NEC contracts in Hong Kong now. But actually what we want to point out here is that an effective and efficient digital platform is way more than like just complying with the mandatory requirements based on our past experience, especially when we are talking about managing target cost contracts, which involves a lot of defined cost, payment checking, like finalization of defined cost, paying share mechanism. We observe that actually effective digital platform could do much more than that, because it could also encourage streamlined target cost contract administration, which if we have the time, we could elaborate more, for instance, like in an hour or so, but we would not do that today. And also in some of the digital platforms that we are using in Hong Kong now, actually it also integrates the use of some digital technologies like OCR or even AI technologies to help identify the defined costs, separate them and also classify them into different codes, etc., and then to store the data, etc. So it's way more than just doing a data storing platform. And also it should also facilitate flows and approvals processes. For instance, like the compensation event, quotation processes, etc. They should be able to do so as well. And last but not least, another point that we find a good platform could do is really on how they suit various NEC contract forms, including the amendments which may be adopted by different clients. For instance, in Hong Kong, we have the Hong Kong edition, but sometimes depending on different project nature, complexity, etc., we still have different amendments. So a good digital platform could definitely be able to suit those amendments as well. So later on, I think Brett will elaborate how their platform could do some or even all of the requirements that we set out here. Yeah. So I will pass the time to Brett for now. Yep.
Thank you, Phyllis. So hi, everyone. My name's Brad Cahill, Business Development Manager at Digital Beehive. I support organisations delivering NEC contracts across major infrastructure programmes globally. So my focus is helping teams embed the right processes and the right tools to deliver NEC successfully, reduce the administration burden and drive more transparent governance. So in this session, we're going to be exploring why structured digital administration is essential for NEC delivery, some of the practical challenges of managing NEC manually, the measurable improvements delivered when digital systems are adopted, and one of the points that Phyllis touched on was how systems must be configured to local requirements. So just a little bit about us. So Digital Beehive is a SaaS provider specialising in NEC contracts and project management. So we combine decades of hands-on experience supporting clients, contractors, consultants across the globe with modern technology solutions that simplify contract and project management, strengthen governance, and deliver better project outcomes. So our vision is simple, really. It's to create the best-in-class digital solutions that transform the delivery of NEC projects and in turn accelerate the positive social impact within the communities that we serve. So a little bit about the NEC context and why it's important. So as NEC becomes more widely adopted in places like Singapore, we will see a shift from reactive models to one that emphasises collaboration, early visibility of change, shared risk management, proactive communication. And the true strength of these NEC contracts is not in the contract documents themselves, it's in how teams behave. NEC rewards early communication, transparency, clarity, but for that to happen consistently, the administrative process needs to be managed in a structured way. So internationally, when NEC is delivered without good administrative discipline, teams tend to struggle with missed deadlines, missed contractual obligations, inconsistent processes, weak audit trails, and disputes that result from incomplete records, poor communication, poor contract management. So the question becomes, how do we support teams in following NEC properly every single day on every single project? And digital systems are a big part of that. So just to highlight some of the challenges of traditional methods, why it breaks down. Most organisations, when they begin their NEC journey, use tools that they already know. So they use email, they use Word documents, they use spreadsheets. These feel familiar and there's not particularly any additional training required, but they do create several challenges and open projects and organisations up to significant risk. So just to pick out a few on the screen, so multiple trackers, there's different versions everywhere. Communications are stored in different people's inboxes and on phones, it's difficult to trace. If deadlines are tracked manually, responses and contractual communications and obligations get missed, visibility is limited, leadership can't see true performance of the contracts or project health very easily or in real time. And there's a heavy administration burden and a lot of time wasted on the administration aspects as well. So this all leads to confusion, inconsistency, inefficiency, and in many cases, avoidable and costly disputes as well. So in the UK, Hong Kong, Peru, South Africa, teams quickly realised that the challenge isn't in understanding the contract itself. It's actually managing the volume, the timing, and the traceability of contract communications. NEC is very time-driven, and manual systems struggle to keep up. So what does a contract management system actually do? So a contract management system gives project teams a consistent environment to manage NEC processes. It supports the administration of NEC contracts by standardising those processes, tracking the contractual communications, tracking the contractual obligations, and providing real-time visibility of contract performance. It provides access to all parties to enable effective communication and contract management, and the software simplifies and automates most of those complex processes. It enhances collaboration and ensures compliance with those contractual obligations as well. So it standardizes the mechanisms within the NEC contract Ross touched on previously. So the early warnings, the compensation events, instructions, the programs, the payments, they track deadlines and remind teams of what is due and when it's due. It records every action with a clear audit trail. It centralizes all the documentation and communication on a project. It provides those real-time dashboards and reduces the administration burden. It frees up people's time, those that are administering the contracts, to focus on higher value tasks rather than the sort of the mundane administrative work. And this all results in clearer communication, faster decisions, an increase in productivity, and ultimately fewer disputes as well. So we've just heard from Phyllis about an important point, that contract management platforms need to be adapted to local market needs. So NEC was developed in the UK, but every region evolves the contract to suit the local context and the legal and regulatory context as well. So a couple of examples: Hong Kong has done so through the Development Bureau and NEC with the introduction of NEC 4 ECC and TSC Hong Kong editions. Peru's done so through the Ministry of Economic and Finance and NEC with the Spanish translation of NEC 4, and Singapore's now doing the same through BCA and NEC with the introduction of the new Singapore Y clauses. And what that means is that a generic tool is rarely enough. The platform needs to reflect the local contractual requirements, the terminology, the clauses, and this has been a major focus for us recently. So we've incorporated the Hong Kong editions of the contracts directly into the system. We've built functionality and continue to build functionality to support with DWSS and DPDS that Phyllis touched on before. We've added a Spanish language pack to the software to ensure that it's accessible for our clients in Latin America. And for Singapore, we've already included the support for the new Y clauses. And this is important because it gives, NEC succeeds when people can follow the process simply. If digital workflows reflect the exact contract structure and local expectations, that compliance element becomes a lot easier, it becomes more accessible, the learning of the software and NEC is faster, and it improves governance as well. So just touching on some of the measurable outcomes, when systems are properly configured and embedded into delivery, they produce measurable operational benefits. So we see reduced administration effort, faster turnaround times on early warnings and CEs, clearer forecasting of time and cost outcomes, more proactive risk management, and fewer disputes, which we mentioned a couple of times. 50% of all disputes arise from poor contract management, missed deadlines, lost communication. So through a digital tool, through having access to real-time notifications, built-in workflows, visibility, dashboards, audit trails, we can reduce this in theory by reduce the cost and the time spent on these disputes and any escalations by up to 50% just by adapting a digital tool. And then just to expand on one of those points slightly, so I've taken two examples of our clients and the data within Contract B, and we've calculated the time it was taken to manage each communication on spreadsheets versus the time taken to manage each communication in Contract B, and calculated the time savings and associated cost savings as a result. So case study one shows a £1 billion framework, roughly 1,600 contracts. And this just from the reduction in that administration time alone, we've saved them over 30,000 hours with a cost saving of nearly 1.3 million. And case study two shows that a single £2 million project using Contract B has saved them 568 hours with a cost saving of just over £25,000. So it shows that there's a significant time saving in which resources could be reallocated or given to work on more valuable tasks rather than those administrative tasks. And it also shows that even smaller individual projects benefit from adopting digital tools. It's not just the large portfolios. So the human side, the intangible benefits, beyond the measurable efficiencies, other gains lie in behavioural and cultural improvement. So a digital NEC environment helps teams build trust and transparency, communicate earlier and more consistently. Importantly, it increases NEC fluency, so guided workflows allow for faster learning. Onboard staff new staff more quickly because they have all the project information and historic project information at their fingertips. And it standardizes across multiple projects and suppliers. So the system gives people confidence in being able to manage NEC contracts, and it helps them understand what good NEC practice looks like. And in markets where NEC is still maturing, like Singapore, it's incredibly powerful. So when the process is clear and guided, people engage more confidently with it, which ultimately improves project outcomes. And it also helps accelerate that capability development across the ecosystem, so across clients, contractors, consultants, subcontractors. And then finally from me, a couple of sort of lessons learned from NEC adoption across the globe. So the first one is build structure early. So teams that introduce structure and digital tools from day one get better project outcomes and fewer disputes. They also standardize processes across teams, so consistent workflows across PMs, contractors, subcontractors, reduces confusion, reduces errors, and that standardization accelerates the learning and the improvement of collaboration across different projects. I touched on it briefly earlier, but scale amplifies benefits. So small projects do benefit, but once multiple contracts, suppliers, delivery partners are involved, structured tools become essential. It's no longer a nice to have, they are essential. And then proactive monitoring and reporting. So having access to dashboards and early warning registers and consistent reporting, it allows teams to spot issues and risks before they escalate. It strengthens control, improves the forecasting, and reduces the overall risk of a project as well. So final comment from me is that Singapore is at an exciting stage at the moment. You have the chance to adopt NEC with the benefit of lessons learned elsewhere, embedding good digital practice right from the start. So if you can, reach out to the team at Mott's in Hong Kong and have a chat with them about their experiences. So that's all from me. So I will pass over to Matthew.
Thanks, Brian. I'll just take control. Yeah, so I've got a bit of a case study of how we've used Contract B within the UK market. So quick run through. So I've got a case study from a big project we've done recently. So a bit about myself. So I'm a lead quantity surveyor with Mott MacDonald Bentley. I've only really worked on NEC from my experience and learned a lot about it at university as well. Currently working on the Yorkshire Water unpack framework. Yeah, working across reservoir projects, nature-based solutions, wastewater treatment, and a range of other water and civil engineering projects. So kind of seen a lot of different forms of NEC. Bit about Mott MacDonald Bentley. So Mott MacDonald Bentley is a design and build joint venture, originally formed in 2003, working on Yorkshire Water, but now working across pretty much nearly all of the UK water clients we've got. And in 2014, J.M. Bentley joined the Mott MacDonald Group. So and work across water sector, civil engineering, industrial buildings, range of other bits and pieces across the country. The project I'm going to be running through is the Dern Reach constructed wetlands. This is a project where we were instructed by the client to improve the sewage treatment works to meet a new consent for ammonia output. It's the largest constructed wetland in the UK for this purpose. It's 4.3 hectares and it's 7 football pitches roughly. I think in total we planted 150,000 new reed plants in there. As you can see, it's quite a large area. Big civil engineering projects. It's quite a lot of different risks on this project being new technology. So managing it through the NEC, what risks sat with what party was quite key, and Contract B really helped with that. We also installed a new pumping station and more traditional M&E equipment to get the flows up to the wetland. It was a very challenging project for a range of reasons, but we'll get into that. Commercial model on this contract. So the client was Yorkshire Water. It was an NEC Option A contract. We originally pushed for Option C on this one, but the client stood firm and wanted Option A. We pushed for Option C because it was the value of the project and if any savings and the risk position of when we went into the contract, the scope was very unclear. So we thought we couldn't really deliver value for money to the client via an Option A, or we would be exposing ourselves to risk there. So we pushed for Option C, but they wanted cost certainty. So went down the route of Option A. And as a result, we negotiated 50% value engineering bonuses where should we come up with a better solution to deliver their required outcomes, we share 50% of that value, which really helped with any innovation we could think of. So we reduced quite a lot of scope by reducing pipe work lengths and that kind of stuff. And we both shared in that benefit, which is good to have. So how we use Contract B. So Contract B is completely integrated in every single Yorkshire Water contract we work on. all commercial and contractual decisions are made through the software. All payments, change control, all program are all managed through it. And we also had weekly reviews with the project manager, site manager, and commercial team. We all got around the table on site and ran through any of the actions, early warnings, NCEs, made sure program was accepted. And as you can see there, we've got a snip of the dashboard, so you can see there's a few open actions there. So you've got open CEs where there's 3 of them open, so actions with the project manager on the client side. There's a couple of acceptances which are open as well. One of the good things about Contract B is you can see down there on the right side, you've got the compliance score, so anyone can quickly jump on, particularly management team can jump on and audit the project team and see how we're doing and if there is any actions we need to sort. Yeah, you can see it's very easy to jump on, look at the dashboard, see when we're meant to finish, when we're finishing now, how much we've been paid. And ideally, we've all got KPIs internally that each one of them should be a green tick, so there's no open actions. And if there are, promotes conversations of what's blocking them and if there's any further information we need. So change control is probably one of the most important things on Contract B. We used it for, as you can see there, it's very easy to audit from when a CE was raised, implemented, and an instruction raised. All early warnings and notification compensation events are uploaded here. And then we follow up with a quotation and project management assessment all in one place. So you can click through one by one, see the early warning, the NCE, the compensation implementation, PMI all in one place. So very easy to jump on. And yeah, if there is any disputes, you can see where in the chain of events these might have occurred. And each time you can put comments and memos on to prompt people to either get things implemented when they've not been, or to notes and audit trail any further information which might have come out since the compensation event was raised. Got a bit of an example CE we've got here. Yeah, so you can see all the steps along the way. So during the works, we discovered an uncharted pipe, which was the client's risk, because we didn't get a chance to do any ground investigations or trial pits before we got to site. So therefore, we raised an early warning and a notification of a compensation event. And during the weekly progress review on site, it was agreed by the client that this is a CE. Once it was agreed as a CE, we went away, quoted up what the change to scope is, and then uploaded it all onto Contract B. And the project manager took their assessment, agreed with our quotes, and implemented it. So you can see all the steps are there, all the notes, and you can see when people have agreed it, when it's been implemented. And then we can then take it forward. Payments is another area where we've used where we've used it on Contract B. So it's one centralized place for putting applications in, seeing how much we've been paid, any assessments made by the client, whether being an activity schedule contract, you apply for milestones reached on the program. So occasionally we might apply for things where the client doesn't agree that we've completed that activity, because you can only apply for 100% completed activities and they'll make an assessment. So it's very easy, rather than back and forth over email, just to see it in one place where the activity schedule can be broken down and assessed. Which means that, yeah, we can also then assess our cash position internally, how we're doing. Approvals and quality is another big one on this project. All our design drawings were uploaded onto Contract B for approval by the client's design team. This meant that should any of the scope change from the uploaded drawings, it's very easy to go on there and audit that, make sure that it's very clear that the scope has changed from these drawings, and it's all in one place, rather than traditionally before with Yorkshire Water, it would be an email form to say these drawings are accepted for construction. Whilst on Contract B, if any of those people left, you can now go on and see. And then subcontractors, not as important on option A, but on option C contracts, subcontractors have to be approved by the PM, but we still had good practice with uploading their quotes and uploading the contracts to make sure they're approved by the PM. And defects and any instructions for search for defects can be managed via Contract B and then easily converted to a CE or a PMI or closed out. Just makes it all very simple being in one place. Luckily, we have no defects on this project so far, so not seeing that on this one. Yeah, and as people touched on already, there's a lot of benefits we found to using Contract B. It's incredibly easy to review any actions and score how we're doing against internal and external KPIs. Yorkshire Water have a range of KPIs we have to meet in terms of getting things implemented, forecast accuracy, program acceptance and things like that. Which makes it all incredibly easy for any of our team to go on and audit that, and any of Yorkshire Water's team to go on and audit that. Also means there's no disputes when it comes to KPI scores. It's all on the dashboard, so you can't argue it. And then everything's all in one place, which means, for example, if people go off sick or there's new people coming into the team, anyone can jump on Contract B and see exactly where the project is. And also I found it's just incredibly easy to use. It's very clear. It's lots of nice bright charts and graphs to see where things are moving. And we could also, for those who didn't have access to it, such as the site managers and stuff like that, we could print off screenshots of it and put it up on the walls. So people like to see that when they come onto site, look at the site cabin wall and see compliance scores, which went down quite well. And like everything, there has been challenges implementing Contract B. Getting everyone on board using the software has been a bit of a challenge with some of the more, older school project managers and sponsors we've had, where they like to just go out to site and instruct the site manager to, oh, can you go put an extra 100 meters of pipe in? Could you go dig this while you're there? Then challenge has been converting those informal conversations and paper records of conversations and meetings onto Contract B. But I think with time and upskilling all the members of staff and showing the benefits of it, we've been getting there and pretty much recording every conversation on there, rather than just little bits and pieces where it's been instructed on site. But yeah, that's it from me. If anyone's, yeah.
Thank you, Matthew. We've got one question in the Q&A section. So it's from Steve. If one of the parties blatantly fails to comply with clause 10.2, is there any realistic remedy under the contract? Ross, I think that was covered in your slide. Do you want to cover that one?
Yeah, actually, it's a really good question, Steve. Thank you. We get this one a lot, actually. It's not as straightforward as, you know, maybe on a tough contract where you say, oh, you're not following a clause, you're in breach, off you go. That's not really in the spirit of mutual trust and collaboration. So actually, I was messaging Phyllis offline. I'd throw to Phyllis, actually, because I'm interested to see what kind of experience we have in Hong Kong on this particular issue.
Sure, no problem. Thanks, Ross and Brett. So just want to share a little bit. So if, for instance, one of the parties really intentionally fails to comply with NEC clause 10.2, basically is the spirit of mutual trust and cooperation. It's a really good question to ask whether there is any remedy or practicable remedy under the contract. First thing that I would like to highlight is definitely that there is no termination reason because a party does not act in the spirit of mutual trust and cooperation. This is not a valid reason for termination, unless, of course, some contracts allow one of the clients to maybe terminate for convenience. But in any case, this doesn't form a valid reason for termination. But we would say, actually, when we advise our Hong Kong clients, we would say this spirit of mutual trust and cooperation actually is embedded in various contractual mechanisms within the NEC. Actually, if parties do not act in the spirit of mutual trust and cooperation, for instance, like the project manager does not approve the program or accept the program based on the reasons set out in the contract, actually, it will form a compensation event. Or in other case, for instance, if when the contractor should have given an early warning notification, which an experienced contractor could have given, then actually there is a consequence in that. When we are assessing the compensation event, it will be taken into account. So basically the consequences is that they will have less entitlement. Originally, they may have, for instance, a level of financial as well as time implication of entitlement. But then if for instance, they do not give the early warning, which they should have given, then their entitlement would be affected. So there are contractual mechanisms embedded in the NEC contract, which make sure that actually the parties act in the spirit of mutual trust and cooperation via those mechanisms. And one thing to supplement is that although today we are not going to offer any legal advice, and we are not in the capacity to offer any legal advice in any case, but there are it's worth to mention that there are some case laws especially in the UK, the English case laws, which mention how judges interpret how a party should act in good faith or act in a mutual trust and cooperation. For instance, like there are cases like Holstein versus the Tarmac cases, how to interpret 10.2. In that case, they mention how to interpret clause 10.1 under NEC 3, which also actually is the mutual trust and cooperation clause. So basically, when we take, if there are disputes and we take the disputes to courts, etc., there are definitely implications, but it's just subject to the court's interpretation. So we would be putting ourselves at risk if we are not acting in the spirit of mutual trust and cooperation. Yeah.
Brilliant, Phyllis. Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Maybe I'll throw one out there while we're waiting. Matthew, I was curious. Really interesting around implementing the extra essentially pain and gain share mechanism with your value engineering option. How did that go with regards to, you know, just your every run of the mill compensation events? You know, were you trading off one another to even them out, or were they very separate items around VE versus a compensation event?
They were quite separate. Yeah, there was examples where the client wanted to a dual run of pipe work under the river kind of thing, and we said, we've looked at it, you only need one. They gave us 50% of that value we had in the contract back. It was all very separate. It wasn't too linked. There was a little bit of it where they said, it gave the impression that we were doing well out of it occasionally commercially. So we kind of let some minor CEs kind of go, if that's the correct word, kind of thing, in return to keep the client happy. Where we should have probably put CEs in for like a half a day delay or something, but we didn't do.
Very good. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's all about that. Yeah, working together, isn't it? There's a lot of that on the Yorkshire Water framework.
We're happy to wrap up.
I think so. Yeah. If there's no other questions, if anybody feels that they want to know more, please reach out to anybody on the call. We're more than open to taking more questions offline.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We'll share the recording with everyone after the session, and we'll share all the speakers' contact details as well. So thank you very much for coming along and listening to us, and thank you again to our speakers as well for preparing the content and delivering it this morning, or this afternoon, sorry.
No problem. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
See you all next time.
Bye-bye.